Hi everyone, Kelt here, bringing you my thoughts on the British royal family and the Harkles. And today I'm going to be talking about Meghan and the late Princess Diana, the comparisons and the very big differences in them, which I felt I had to address because of the fact that there are still so many Sussex fans that think that Meghan Markle is Diana too. So this hopefully will show why she is not Diana too. As I sit here looking at so many images of the late Princess Diana, the People's Princess, a woman whose grace, vulnerability and humanity captivated the world, I can't help but feel a sense of disbelief. How could anyone dare to compare themselves to her? She wasn't perfect by any means, but Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, has been positioned by some as a modern-day Diana. Today, I'm diving deep into their lives to show you why this comparison is not just flawed, it's absurd. From their childhoods to their dress sense, their treatment of others to their charitable impacts, Diana and Meghan are worlds apart. And the idea of Meghan as a Diana too, it's a fantasy that crumbles under scrutiny. And it doesn't take much. Let's start with their beginnings. Diana Spencer was born into British aristocracy, raised at Althorpe, a sprawling estate steeped in tradition. Her childhood was privileged, but marked by emotional turmoil. Her parents' divorce left her shy, sensitive and vulnerable. She was just 20 when she became engaged to Prince Charles. She was a virgin bride, whose innocence was a hallmark of her early public image. The press adored her for it, calling her Shy Di, a young woman thrust into a world she barely understood. Now contrast that with Meghan Markle. Born in Los Angeles to a middle-class family, Meghan's childhood was urban, modern and far from aristocratic. Her parents also divorced, but Meghan was no shrinking violet. By her own account, she was assertive, ambitious and outspoken from a young age. She was a seasoned actress in her 30s with a previous marriage and public career when she met Prince Harry. Though when I say seasoned, I mean a seasoned Z-list actress. The Daily Express quoted Meghan's estranged childhood friend, Ninaki Priddy, who said, "She gets exactly what she wants, and Harry has fallen for her play. It's like she has been planning this all her life." There's no trace of Diana's naive innocence here, just a woman who knew exactly what she was stepping into. Diana's innocence wasn't just a product of youth, it was her essence. She was unguarded, raw and relatable. Meghan, by contrast, was polished and calculated, a media-savvy professional to a degree. To suggest they share the same spirit is to ignore the chasm between Diana's vulnerability and Meghan's control. So let's talk fashion, because Diana's style was impeccable, a masterclass in reading the room. Whether it was her fairy tale wedding gown or the daring black revenge dress, Diana knew how to dress for the occasion. As Martin Nolan of Julien's Auction said, Diana and her sense of style, she knew how to dress and when to dress, and she could read the room and know what would be appreciated most. Her wardrobe wasn't just clothes, it was diplomacy. This was especially evident when Diana travelled abroad. During her 1991 visit to Pakistan, she wore a headscarf with a modest, elegant outfit while visiting a mosque, showing deep respect for cultural norms. Her head covering was neatly secured, her attire graceful, blending tradition with her signature poise. The Telegraph noted, Diana's ability to adapt her style to local customs made her a global ambassador of goodwill. She looked regal, respectful, and utterly at ease. Meghan, by contrast, often missed the mark, nowhere more glaringly than during her 2019 visit to a mosque in South Africa. Her headscarf was loosely draped, with straggly hair spilling out, and she wore a recycled olive green dress that looked more like a crumpled sack. Worse, her bare arms were exposed, which was a significant faux pas in a conservative setting. The Daily Mail reported critics calling her outfit insensitive and sloppy, with one commentator noting Meghan's mosque attire showed a lack of understanding of cultural expectations. Others posted Meghan's headscarf in the mosque was a mess, hair everywhere, bare arms. Compare that to Diana's grace in Pakistan. No contest. While Diana honoured her hosts, Meghan's choices seemed careless, undermining her credibility. Her broader fashion missteps tell a similar story. Take her 2018 Trooping the Colour appearance, where her pale pink dress was criticised for being too casual and poorly fitted for such a formal event. Or her 2019 South Africa tour, where a loose, wrinkled dress drew comments for lacking polish. The Express reported a commentator who remarked, "Didn't Meghan spend more money on her wardrobe than any royal in Europe in 1 year? She's a fashion glutton." While Diana's style elevated her, Meghan's often screamed for attention rather than respect. And there's the emulation. Meghan has repeatedly echoed Diana's looks. In 2018, her Carolina Herrera dress at Trooping the Colour mirrored Diana's 1987 Catherine Walker gown, both off the shoulder, both bold. Her 2018 Edinburgh visit saw her in a plaid coat, reminiscent of Diana's 1987 Highland Games outfit. Even jewellery. Diana's aquamarine ring, which was said to be worn by Meghan at her wedding reception, but I believe it to be a copy, feels like a deliberate nod. But these choices don't capture Diana's effortless grace. They feel like a calculated attempt to borrow her shine. As one person put it, Meghan Markle's motives for mimicking Diana aren't just calculated, they're a grotesque parasitic leeching off a corpse she has no right to touch. That was from ex-user at Candid Coverage. And their treatment of others. Diana's kindness was legendary. She shook hands with AIDS patients when stigma was rampant, sat with the homeless and listened to the marginalised. Her compassion wasn't performative. It came from a genuine desire to connect. People have described her as having kindness and innocence with vulnerability, qualities that define her interactions. Meghan's treatment of others, however, has drawn darker headlines. Tom Bower's book, Revenge, details her time filming a Reitman's ad, where she was nicknamed the Princess for her demands, with one crew member noting she was always fed up, sighing, huffing and rolling her eyes at things. Palace staff reportedly faced similar challenges. A former aide accused Meghan of bullying behaviour, with the Daily Mail reporting claims of ferocious exchanges and unacceptable conduct. While Meghan denies these allegations, the pattern is starkly different from Diana's warmth. Diana's humility allowed her to connect. Meghan's reported need for control often alienated. Tina Brown, a former confidant of Diana's, told the Daily Mail, Meghan looked to the example of Princess Diana and thought that she could follow the same path, but failed to recognise the humdrum assignments Diana undertook with grace. Meghan's ambition to be a global star clashed with the servitude Diana embraced. Now let's examine the heart of their public roles, their charitable impacts. So, as I'm looking at various tributes to Diana's humanitarian legacy here on my laptop, I'm reminded of how her work reshaped the world. Diana's charity efforts were not just acts of goodwill, they were seismic, leaving lasting change in their wake. Meghan's contributions, while modern and well publicised, lack the same depth and transformative power. The contrast is stark, and it underscores why Meghan's aspiration to be Diana too is so far from reality. Diana's charitable impact was profound, spanning over 100 organisations and touching millions of lives. As patron or president of charities like the Royal Marsden Hospital, Great Ormond Street Hospital for Children, and the National AIDS Trust, she didn't just lend her name, she invested her time and heart. Her work with HIV/AIDS was revolutionary. In 1987, she opened Britain's first AIDS ward at Middlesex Hospital, shaking hands with patients without gloves at a time when stigma was rampant. The Guardian quoted her saying, "HIV does not make people dangerous to know. You can shake their hands and give them a hug. Heaven knows they need it." Bless that woman. This act shifted global perceptions, with Dr. Ruth Collins of the Terence Higgins Trust telling the BBC, "Diana's intervention reduced stigma overnight. Donations and volunteers surged. Her involvement led to measurable increases in funding and awareness, with the National AIDS Trust reporting a 20% rise in donations in 1987. What have we had with Meghan? People pull out of organisations when she's had anything to do with them, and even cancelled their Netflix accounts. Back to Diana. Her campaign against landmines was equally transformative. In 1997, Diana walked through a cleared minefield in Angola with the Halo Trust, spotlighting the devastation caused by unexploded mines. The Independent reported that her advocacy helped secure the Ottawa Treaty, banning anti-personnel landmines, signed by 122 countries within a year. The Halos Trust Paul Heslop said, "Diana's involvement brought unprecedented media attention, leading to millions in funding for mine clearance. By 1998, the charity cleared over 7,000 mines in Angola alone, saving countless lives. Her impact was tangible, global, and enduring." Diana's work with the homeless through Centrepoint also left a lasting mark. She visited shelters, advocated for policy changes, and brought her sons to meet residents, fostering empathy in the next generation. The Telegraph reported that Centrepoint's funding doubled during her patronage, enabling the charity to house 1,200 young people annually by 1997. Her leprosy advocacy via the Leprosy Mission saw similar results, with donations spiking after her visits to India and Indonesia, where she touched patients to dispel myths. The Times quoted a mission spokesperson, "Diana's touch led to a 30% increase in global donations in 1996. Wow. Her interactions with children were a cornerstone of her impact. At Great Ormond Street Hospital, Diana knelt to play with young patients, her warmth easing their fears. A 1993 BBC report described her hugging a cancer patient, with the child's mother saying, "Diana made my daughter forget her pain for a moment." Her patronage of Barnardo's supported 90,000 vulnerable children annually by 1997, with programmes expanding due to her fundraising. The Express quoted a Barnardo's staff member, "Diana's visits weren't just morale boosts, they brought in funds that changed lives." Her natural connection with children amplified her charity's reach, making her a beacon of hope. Meghan's charitable impact, by contrast, is far less substantial. As a working royal from 2018 to 2020, she supported causes like SmartWorks, which helps women find employment, and the Invictus Games, which was already founded by Prince Harry. Her patronage of the National Theatre and the Association of Commonwealth Universities, aimed to promote arts and education, was limited by her short tenure and focus on publicity over substance. The Queen removed her patronages as soon as Meghan started declaring her plans for Megxit along with Harry. The Daily Mail reported in 2023 that SmartWorks, while benefiting from Meghan's high-profile visits, saw only a 10% increase in clients served, from 3,000 to 3,300 annually during her patronage, a modest gain compared to Diana's transformative effects. Post-royalty, Meghan and Harry's Archewell Foundation has focused on issues like mental health and gender equity, but its impact is questionable. In fact, it's had more bad press than anything lately. A 2023 Daily Mail report noted that Archewell's financial filings showed $2 million in donations, a fraction of the $13 million raised by Diana, the Princess of Wales Memorial Fund, in its first year, 1997. The critics argue that Archewell prioritises branding over results, with one source telling the Mail it's more about Meghan's image than systemic change. Oh, right. For example, Archewell's partnership with the Jina Network for Afghan Women was praised for visibility, but lacked clear metrics on lives impacted, unlike Diana's quantifiable contributions. Meghan and Harry's charities have received massive criticisms over these recent years, and especially Harry's, to do with all the abuse in Africa. Meghan's interactions with children further highlight the gap. During her 2019 South Africa tour, she appeared awkward engaging with a child at a community centre, her smile forced as she quickly moved on. The Sun reported her 2018 Fiji visit, where she seemed uncomfortable holding a baby, hurriedly passing it back. At the 2019 Invictus Games, she grimaced when a child tugged at her dress, a moment caught on camera. Ex-user at Royal Tea Spill posted, "Meghan's face when kids get too close says it all. Diana would have been on the floor playing with them. Meghan looks like she'd rather be anywhere else." While Archewell supports youth initiatives, Meghan's public discomfort with children undermines her impact compared to Diana's natural maternal interactions. Meghan has tried to emulate Diana's charitable gestures. In 2019, she tied a ribbon at a South African memorial, echoing Diana's tributes at disaster sites. Body language expert Darren Stanton told The Express, "Meghan's actions seemed to channel Diana's empathic style, but they lacked the same emotional authenticity." Her 2019 SmartWorks visit, where she coached women on job interviews, mirrored Diana's hands-on approach, but was very staged, with cameras capturing every moment. Ex-user at TruthTeller99 wrote, "Meghan's charity is a pale imitation of Diana's. It's all performance, no heart. Diana's impact came from genuine empathy. Meghan's feels like a calculated bid for Diana's halo." The numbers tell the story. Diana's involvement drove millions in donations and policy changes, from mine bans to increased NHS funding for AIDS care. Meghan's efforts, while some say were well-intentioned, lacked comparable scale or depth. Royal biographer Angela Levin told The Express, "Diana's charity work was about sacrifice and long-term commitment. Meghan's is about quick wins and media attention." And as ex-user at RoyalHeart22 posted, "Diana's charity work changed lives and saved lives. Meghan's is a drop in the bucket by comparison. Meghan's attempts to emulate Diana go beyond charity and clothing. Body language expert Judy James told The Express in 2019 that Meghan used a self-effacing gesture, tilting her head and grinning, when wearing formal royal attire, much like Diana did, to seem funny and real. At a 2018 Wimbledon appearance, Meghan's hand-on-back gesture toward Harry echoed Diana's protective touches with her sons. These moves feel studied, as if Meghan watched Diana's playbook and tried to replicate it. But Diana's gestures were spontaneous, born of emotional openness. Meghan's seemed rehearsed, a performance to evoke innocence and purity, as stylist Miranda Holder noted. Particularly telling is Meghan's attempt to adopt a motherly role with Harry, mimicking Diana's nurturing gestures. Diana was known for her protective hand-on-back touch with her sons, a gesture of maternal reassurance, seen in moments like guiding a young Harry at school events in 1992. In 1992, The Express noted, Diana's touch was a symbol of her devotion, grounding her boys in a turbulent world. Meghan has mirrored this, notably during a 2018 visit to Dubbo, Australia, where she placed her hand on Harry's back as they greeted crowds, and again at the 2019 South Africa tour, guiding him with a similar gesture. Body language expert Darren Stanton told the Mirror, Meghan's hand-on-back move seems to channel Diana's motherly reassurance, but it feels more controlling than comforting. This gesture, meant to evoke Diana's maternal warmth, instead underscores Meghan's tendency to lead Harry, contrasting with Diana's selfless support. Ex-user at RoyalGossip22 posted, Meghan copying Diana's hand-on-back with Harry is creepy. Diana was his mum, not his wife, trying to play mum. So the attempt only highlighted the gap between Diana's genuine care and Meghan's calculated emulation. Most of us were so fed up with this by the time she had been doing this for a year or so, and it was quite predictable and sickening to watch for many. Meghan's controlling nature further widens the gap between her and Diana. The Daily Mail quoted a former courtier saying Meghan, and I quote, felt constrained, end quote, by royal duties and wanted to, and I quote, do their own thing without consulting the big royal machine, end quote. Diana, despite her struggles, worked within the system for years, earning her iconic status through patience. Meghan's haste to break free, stepping back as a senior royal in 2020, shows a refusal to endure what Diana did. And most of us realise that she was nothing like Princess Diana, and couldn't be less like Princess Diana. They were total opposites. The notion of Meghan as Diana too is, frankly, ridiculous. Diana's global impact came from her authenticity. She was flawed, human, and deeply empathic. Meghan's polished persona, while charismatic, lacks that raw connection. The Express quoted a Portuguese historian, Lourenço Pereira Coutinho, who called Meghan's Oprah interview an attempt to play the role of 21st century Princess Diana on camera, suggesting she was bullied like Diana. But Diana's struggles were documented over decades. Meghan's claims, often vague, lack the same weight. Meghan's obsession with Diana's legacy is telling. The Express reported her childhood friends saying Meghan had Diana's biography on her bookshelf as a girl, dreaming of being Diana too. But Diana's magic wasn't something you could manufacture. There are so many examples of Meghan copying Diana. I've done videos over the years of this. So does she still believe that she can become Diana too? Diana had class, style and taste, and Meghan has none of those. Yet her fans will still talk about her being Diana too. Looking through these pictures of Diana, I see a woman who changed the world through her heart, her charity work, her style, her kindness. These weren't acts. They were her essence. Meghan, for all her ambition, cannot replicate that. Their childhoods, their style, their treatment of others, their charitable impacts, these are not just differences, they're opposites. Complete opposites. To think Meghan could become Diana too is to misunderstand Diana entirely. Diana was one of a kind, and that is the ultimate truth.